Thank you so much for staying with us. Team South Africa is hard at work in the sweltering Tokyo heat ahead of the World Athletics Championships. The temperature in the Japanese capital is expected to reach at least 30 degrees for the majority of the championships, which begin on Saturday, with humidity pushing the feels-like factor closer to 40 degrees on some days. To help us understand how things are on the ground, we are joined live from Japan by Samuel Sepeng, Team South Africa coach. Sam, good evening, or should I rather say konnichiwa?
Konnichiwa. No, good evening.
No, Sam, thank you so much for staying up. I know it's about 1:45 in the morning in Japan, but just take us through how the conditions are. Is it as bad as reports suggest?
Being honest with you, yeah, it is bad. But as I said, come on, it's something that obviously, we've been prepared for it. But obviously, so far, the athletes, they managed that.
And the athletes, I mean, of course, coming from South Africa, do you think these conditions suit you a little bit better, understanding how 30-degree temperatures feel, and are the guys and girls acclimatizing correctly?
Yeah, with that we do. Looking at, obviously, we had a camp, before the games were going to start. We arrived, on time. Obviously, we had some sessions. Yes, it was, hot, but as you mentioned, obviously, we from South Africa, we used to the 30 degrees, but, on the other side is the weather that, for myself as a coach, is hot and into that, on the other side, the positive side for us is something that is not only for the South African team. Obviously, most of the countries, obviously, they will face that. So, as we mentioned, with the preparation, the team doctors that we have, we have the expert, that, they did that research and guiding the athlete, in terms of, how to overcome, whatever the situation that we are in.
Sammy, how have the organizers made sure that you guys feel at home and that the heat is not a factor?
Obviously, they made some changes. I don't know if you saw the information in terms of, the race walkings and the marathon, to move the times. But obviously, in all, obviously, they do their best. Obviously, as I mentioned about the team, the medical team for our team. So they do, into, their best to make sure that the athlete, they get, recovered, dehydration, all those matters.
Yesterday, we got some sad news that Bayanda Walaza has to pull out from Team South Africa. How big of a blow is that for the team?
I don't want to talk much about that because for me, as you know, I'm more into the middle and long, distance. But as you know, looking at the South African performance athlete, this year we talk about 4 athletes that ran sub 10 seconds. Some ran 10-0. So I best believe that every athlete who's in the squad, will do his part.
One of those athletes who are medal hopefuls is one that's close to your heart, who you coach on a daily basis, Prudence Sekhodiso. How is she looking?
So far, so good. Injury free. As I mentioned, that we have the expert. Every on the medical, team. Every person who's here, they do their best to make sure this athlete they get the best service that they can give and making sure that, they are ready for the competition. And touching to that, yes, she's training well. We don't have any injury. And she can't wait to start the games.
When I looked at the list of the athletes who are in Japan to represent Team South Africa, Samuel, it looks like there's also a lot of youngsters there. How's the energy? Are they looking forward to it? And could we see some surprise medal hopes?
As I mentioned, we have a young team. We are building to 2028 Olympic. For them is, come there and do what they can do. I don't think there's any athlete who will come this side to have fun. We're here to do the work. We want to accomplish what the mandate, we promised to the South Africans. And to say that, obviously, the athlete, they will focus on the heat. Remember, we're talking, 3 rounds to get to the final. So at this point, obviously, we encouraging our athletes to make sure that they pass the heat. And after passing the heat, then we will start talking about the semis before we get to the final. But, it's something that the coaches, the management, the athlete as well. And, it's something that they know that we're here to do the work, and the work is to make sure that we get to the final before we can talk about the medal.
Sammy, and I mean, you specialize in the middle distance and the long distances. We know in the recent past, Team South Africa has solely relied on our sprinters. They're the ones who've been grabbing the headlines. How do we look in terms of our middle distance and long distance? Because in the past, I mean, your brother as well was an 800-meter silver Olympic medalist himself.
As I mentioned, we're growing. Being honest with you, looking at, we have Prudence, as you mentioned, we have Tepotit, Ryan Pachela, we have Adrian, who's going to do the 10,000. We have El Rechaland, we cannot count them out. Looking at El Rechaland's performance last year, come on, he was on, the top 10 on the marathon, if not mistaken. And like I mentioned, that every athlete who's here wants to improve. We cannot count them out. Adrian, he did fantastic performance last year, into the 10,000. Come on, he wants to improve the performance from last year. So for us, we believe, because every athlete who comes here prepared very well. So everyone wants to, to give us, the best that they can give. So yeah, we support the athlete and hoping for the best.
And you guys, as the coaches, have you sat around and said, these are the boxes that we are looking to tick at these particular world championships?
Yeah, we do. Every team member who's here, obviously, we do, do the report. Obviously, they do the follow-up. So on my side, talking from the previous Olympic, obvious, there are changes, that we approach, to better the performance. So we're hoping, to see that whatever we ticked, then will give us the seat. Talking about that, obvious, Prudence made the final last year. Come this year, we went to the indoor, we got a gold. It's something that each time the management, the team actually that, surrounding the athletes, they make sure that we get improvement. And as I said, obviously, we're hoping for the best. We don't want to put pressure into the athlete. We know she got the gold. Obviously, like I said, the focus for us is to pass those around that I mentioned. Once we can get to the last one, then that's where we can, start talking about the medal.
Team South Africa long and middle distance coach Samuel Sepeng coming live from us from Tokyo in Japan. Of course, the World Athletics Championships kick off this coming Saturday. We've heard that the sweltering heat in Tokyo is a bit of a concern. Well, we'll have this and a whole lot more in the next hour. For now, your headlines.